Arcade 1UP's Mortal Kombat cabinet is a really nice machine. There are, however, a few things that could be improved upon. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this $300 arcade cabinet feel like a $1,000 arcade cabinet for only about 10 bucks. This is Steve from Restalgia, and let's get started. Okay, so I want to give full disclosure. Everything I'm going to do in this video costs about $40 or $45, but the last thing I do is entirely optional and doesn't actually provide any improved gaming experience. It's a graphic overlay for the screen, which is handy and looks really cool, but it is by no means necessary. If you're on a budget, forget the bezel artwork and just do the joystick upgrades, which should cost you about 10 to 15 bucks. So we're going to be replacing the tension springs with 4-pound springs and also replacing the square gate on the bottom of the stock sticks with octagonal gates. This will make the joysticks really stiff and sturdy, as well as rotate better while playing games. I recommend upgrading the springs on every single Arcade 1UP cabinet that you've got, but the gates are only really helpful if you're going to be playing a fighting game, which requires fairly quick movement like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. For this upgrade, we need the following items: a Phillips head screwdriver, as well as a thin flathead screwdriver, an X-Acto knife or a craft knife, a pair of pliers, and I recommend using a needle nose pair, some painter's tape. We're going to need 2 of these 4-pound springs for your arcade joysticks. We need 2 of these octagonal gates. And finally, we need this custom printed vinyl for the bezel of our Arcade 1UP screen. The first thing that we need to do is remove and unplug the control panel from our cabinet. There are 4 screws that need to be loosened, and then it can be picked up and simply unplugged. Next, there are 4 screws holding the screen bezel in place. We need to unscrew these and remove the bezel also. We're going to be replacing the tension springs and gates at the same time. We need to remove the mounting screws from the side of the control board if you have not done so already. Next, we need to get the acrylic out of the way. To do this, we've got to remove the bat tops and the round gap covers. Then we can carefully remove the acrylic and set it aside. At this point, we're going to need to flip the control board upside down. It's probably wise to put some sort of cloth or fabric down to prevent scratching of the control board or of the surface in which you are working. There are 6 screws along the plastic component retainer that will need to be removed in order to gain access to the joysticks and the buttons. We're going to go ahead and remove those now. Now that we have the cover removed, we need to take a look at the bottom of the joystick. We now have to remove the original gates on these joysticks. There are 4 pins, you just have to apply a little bit of pressure and it pops right out. There's a small C-clip holding the tensioner and spring in place. We will need to use a strong X-Acto knife to pry this a bit loose, and then we're going to use a thin flathead screwdriver top to pop the C-clip right off. Be careful doing this. We need the C-clip later and it is relatively small, so make sure that you keep an eye on it. Next, we can remove the white plastic tensioner, which will expose the spring. Again, we need this for later. This is where we're going to find our spring. I believe these are 1-pound springs, which is fine if you don't play that often, but if you do play regularly, the springs will wear out a lot easier and your sticks will start to feel loose and unresponsive. These 4-pound springs are fantastic replacements. We just have to pop one in and then cover it up with the plastic tensioner. The next part's a little bit more difficult. We need to apply pressure on the tensioner to depress the spring. This will give us access to the channel in which the C-clip needs to slide into. This is much easier to do with an extra set of hands, but can be done solo if needed. Once the C-clip is started, this is where you're going to want your pair of pliers. Just apply a bit of pressure and the clips pop right back on securely. We're going to follow the same procedure for the other side. I'll skip showing it in the video, but know that I did complete this off camera. Now we need to install the octagonal gates. It's pretty easy to get these on, you just have to line them up, there's only one way that they fit, and they'll snap right into place. It may take a little bit of wiggling, but you definitely should be able to get it. Now that both of our sticks have been upgraded, we can reassemble the cover. Just line it up and screw the 6 screws back in place. Now we just have to reattach our acrylic and bat tops, and this part of the mod is complete. Now we're going to go ahead and add our graphic overlay to our screen. We can do this a couple of ways. The way that I recommend is to flip our screen bezel over and apply the graphic to the back. The reason for this is because if we ever decide to revert back to our old stock look, all we have to do is heat the vinyl up, peel it off, and flip the bezel back around. Now we have to grab and prep our vinyl. We need to remove the center section that has the BOLTZ Design logo on it. This is really simple. We just need to trim along the edge with a sharp X-Acto knife. I wouldn't recommend using your bezel as a guide like I did in this video. I just couldn't find my ruler for the life of me. Once the center is trimmed away, we are ready to apply this bezel. Be sure to wipe the bezel clear of any dust or debris. Even a little bit of dust can make the bezel appear to have some imperfections and bumps in it. I found the easiest way to apply this is to line it up and tape it down to the table with some painter's tape. The vinyl will come slightly oversized, so you should have a little bit of wiggle room, but you'll want to make sure the center cutout is lined up nicely. We will be able to trim the edge bits after it's completely applied. I used 3 pieces of tape, 1 on each side, as well as 1 last long strip along the bottom. Then we just have to fold it over, peel and cut away our backing, and slowly apply the vinyl. I'm using an applicator tool, but you can use a credit card or even your hand if you're really careful. Once that is done, we'll repeat with the bottom half of the vinyl and we're almost done here. You may have some imperfections along the bottom of the bezel, but that won't really matter because it's going to be hidden behind the control panel. Now we're just going to take our X-Acto knife and run it across the bezel edge so we can trim off any of that excess overhang vinyl that's left on there. The last step before we can reassemble is to punch through the holes for the screws. There are 4 of them that we need to do, and if you feel around, you can feel the indent. If you apply a bit of pressure, you'll be able to visually see the hole. You can try to trim this with an X-Acto knife, but I find that the cut ends up not looking very clean. Instead, what I find works best is to use a flathead screwdriver bit and just carefully push through the hole while rotating. It pops through the vinyl, and the hole is nice and clean. Once all 4 holes are done, we're finally ready for assembly. First, we're going to remount our bezel. It just lines up and we pop our 4 screws into it to hold it in place. Next, we're going to go ahead and connect our control panel and screw that back in place as well. Now we're pretty much all done with this mod. I've got to give a big shout out to BOLTZ DESIGNZ for designing such an awesome bezel for the cabinet. It provides the entire moveset for all Mortal Kombat characters for all 3 games. The artwork is clear and clean, and everything is really easy to read and understand. Arcade Graphix currently has this on their website for sale, and they'll pretty much ship anywhere, including to Canada. It retails for $25 US and is well worth it in my opinion. I will provide all the links to everything in the description below as usual. Well, there you have it, the cheapest and best mods I recommend every Arcade 1UP cabinet owner should do to their Mortal Kombat cabinet. The controls make a huge difference. Before this mod, I was having a really hard time getting fatalities input properly, but as soon as I started playing with the upgraded parts, I was able to get a fatality done with absolutely no problem. This $10 is probably the best $10 you will ever spend on these cabinets. But that's all I've got for you in this video. Thank you so very much for watching, subscribe to the channel for more videos, and turn on notifications. What mods have you guys done to your arcade cabinets? Which Arcade 1 cabinet is your favorite? Let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys again real soon.